let me inside. I miss my baby.
The mother of 23-year-old Lauren Smith Fields of Bridgeport says her family's world came crashing down 10 days ago when her daughter was found dead inside her apartment on Plymouth Street under what the family describes as mysterious circumstances. The medical examiner has not yet released the cause of death, and investigators aren't commenting.
She was a bright, ambitious 23-year-old college student, full of life, dreams, and promise. Lauren Smith Fields had the world at her feet. She was excited for her future, driven by her passion for physical therapy and fitness. A simple date on a Sunday night. What could go wrong? She was meeting someone new, someone she met on Bumble. By morning, Lauren would be gone, her future stolen in a single night. The police would rule it an accident, but was it? Or did the system fail her from the very beginning? But this isn't just any story. This is a story that shocked Connecticut, and it sparked a nationwide conversation about the safety of women on dating apps, about justice, and about the way cases like Lauren's are handled by authorities. Welcome to City Crime Tales. I'm your host, and tonight, we'll take you through a story of grief, injustice, and the fight for accountability. A date, a night, a young woman full of potential, and a police investigation that many say overlooked the truth. Before we dive into the full story, take a moment to like this video if you believe justice should be served for Lauren. Subscribe to our channel if you want to hear more cases that need your attention. Now let's get started. Today we're unraveling the mystery behind Lauren Smith Fields' tragic death. A story full of twists, unanswered questions, and a fight for truth. Stay with us because this is a case that will make you think twice about what really happened that fateful night. Born on January 23, 1998, in the heart of Bridgeport, Connecticut, Lauren Smith Fields was destined to make an impact. From an early age, she was known for her bright smile, infectious energy, and fierce determination. She was the light in her family's life, a young woman with boundless dreams and an unshakable will to succeed. But Lauren wasn't just another student. She was a track star who could run faster than most, but what really set her apart was the passion she brought to everything she did. Lauren wasn't just a standout athlete, she was a dreamer. From the time she could remember, she had a vision for her future. She was determined to make her mark in the world of physical therapy, helping others recover, heal, and regain their strength. Her love for helping others and her fascination with the human body led her to pursue a degree in physical therapy at Norwalk Community College. But more than that, Lauren's dream was to travel the world, experience everything life had to offer, and share her love for life with everyone around her. Lauren was the embodiment of discipline, ambition, and health. Every day she worked hard to keep herself in peak condition, training at the gym, staying active, and documenting her journey on social media. Her Instagram was filled with fitness photos, workouts, and motivational quotes. She wasn't just living for herself. She wanted to inspire others to take care of their bodies and minds too. Friends would describe her as someone who always knew what she wanted and wasn't afraid to chase her dreams. But Lauren was more than just an athlete or a dreamer. She was a daughter, a sister, and a best friend. The bond she shared with her mother, Chantel Fields, was incredibly special. They were more than family, they were best friends. Lauren would talk to her mom about everything, her dreams, her hopes, her fears. Chantel was her rock, always supporting her, always believing in her. They shared a relationship built on trust, respect, and endless love. Lauren's story was just beginning. She had big plans that involved helping people, traveling the world, and maybe, just maybe, finding love along the way. But little did anyone know, the very night she went on her first Bumble date, the life she had worked so hard to build would be snuffed out, leaving only questions and sorrow behind. How does someone with so much ambition, health awareness, and love for life suddenly vanish from the future they worked so hard for? Was it truly just an accident or something more? It was December 12, 2021. Just another Sunday evening in Bridgeport. For Lauren Smith Fields, the night had started like any other, excited for a date she'd been looking forward to. She'd been chatting with 37-year-old Matthew LaFontaine on Bumble, a dating app where strangers meet, get to know each other, and maybe, just maybe, find love. For Lauren, this felt like it could be something real. She had chosen the perfect outfit, stocked up on food and drinks, and was ready to spend a night with someone new. Lauren had texted her friends earlier in the day, letting them know she was meeting someone she had met online. She sounded excited, a little nervous, but hopeful. She had plans to meet someone new, perhaps start a relationship, maybe just enjoy a night of good conversation and fun. But no one could have predicted that hours later, Lauren would be found unresponsive in her own apartment, and her night would take a tragic turn. The evening started off just as Lauren had imagined, nothing out of the ordinary. She greeted Matthew with a smile. They settled in her cozy apartment, ordered some food, shared a few laughs, and talked about their lives. As they talked, Lauren's excitement turned into comfort. She felt safe, she felt at ease with this man she had met online. But it wasn't long before the night began to shift. As the evening went on, they decided to have a few drinks. At first, it was just casual, something that happens when two people are getting to know each other. But soon, the drinks turned into more tequila shots. A little fun turned into a bit too much. Lauren, known for her discipline and fitness, wasn't one to overindulge, but tonight felt different. She felt comfortable, even a little carefree. Lauren didn't feel drunk, but soon she began to feel unwell. She excused herself to the bathroom, where she reportedly began vomiting. Matthew, concerned but not alarmed, said she took a little longer than expected. When she returned to the living room, she seemed to be struggling. Something wasn't right. Lauren returned to the couch, but something was different. She wasn't her usual self. Her energy, once vibrant, was fading fast. She lay down, exhausted, and soon drifted into an unconscious sleep. Matthew claimed he didn't think much of it, assuming it was just the alcohol. But a healthy, active 23-year-old doesn't just fall asleep like that, not after one night of drinks. Matthew claimed that when Lauren fell asleep on the couch, he simply carried her to her bedroom. He said he laid her down, covered her with a blanket, and went to sleep next to her. But what happened next would make him a person of interest in a case that should have never been so easy to close. What really happened in those final hours between two strangers, and how did an ordinary night turn into tragedy? Before we continue to explore the tragic night that brought Matthew LaFontaine and Lauren Smith Fields together, let's take a closer look at the man who became a part of her life, even if only for a short time. Matthew LaFontaine was 37 years old when he met Lauren on Bumble. While Lauren was a college student, a track star, and an aspiring physical therapist, Matthew's life seemed far removed from hers. He was an older man living in Milford, Connecticut, a city about an hour away from Bridgeport. At first glance, Matthew LaFontaine's early life, though not filled with the same outward ambition as Lauren's, was shaped by its own experiences. Born and raised in Connecticut, he came from a family that valued stability. He had a job, a home, and some experience in relationships, but nothing that could be described as extraordinary. He worked in a variety of roles, often keeping to himself, spending time online rather than actively engaging with his community. appeared to be a regular guy. But who exactly was he? As Matthew entered his late 30s, he found himself alone and turning to dating apps for companionship. He hadn't formed any long-lasting relationships, and his online presence had become a way to seek connection. For Matthew, Bumble was an opportunity to meet someone new, someone like Lauren, a woman who seemed full of life, ambition, and promise. To her, he was a stranger. To him, she was a new connection, one that could potentially offer the connection he craved. Matthew's messages to Lauren were light-hearted and seemingly respectful at first. But as their online relationship progressed, the two shared personal details, thoughts, and experiences. Lauren, who often spoke of her dreams and aspirations, was excited to meet someone she felt a connection with. Matthew, on the other hand, appeared eager to meet someone with such positive energy, even though it was clear they were at different stages in life. The 14-year age gap didn't seem to deter either of them. After all, maturity and life experience can sometimes be seen as attractive qualities. Despite their different lives and the age gap, Matthew seemed to hit it off with Lauren. In a short span of time, the two set a date to meet in person. Something that many would hope for, something full of potential. Lauren's friends and family were supportive of her plans, knowing she was just beginning to explore relationships and find what she wanted in a partner. Little did they know, the night would end in a tragedy that none of them could have foreseen. But no one could have predicted the devastating chain of events that would unfold over the next few hours. The seemingly normal evening between two strangers would quickly spiral into an inexplicable tragedy, one that would change Lauren's family's life forever and leave more questions than answers. At 6:30 a.m. on December 13th, Matthew LaFontaine claimed he woke up to a nightmare. He found Lauren Smith Fields unresponsive, blood streaming from her nose, lying lifeless in her bed. Panic set in and he quickly dialed 911. His voice was shaky as he begged for help, but by the time the paramedics arrived, it was already too late. Lauren, the young woman full of dreams, was gone. Matthew was soon questioned by police, but his calm demeanor and quick response made him appear as just a concerned witness. To the authorities, his account seemed plausible. He was the one who called for help after all. But to Lauren's family, the real nightmare was just beginning. The real shock came when Lauren's family, her mother, Chantel Fields, had been calling all day. No response. No texts. No calls. No word from Lauren. Concerned, her family traveled to her apartment, thinking she might be ill or perhaps had a dead phone battery. But what they found left them devastated. It wasn't the police who called her. It wasn't a compassionate officer delivering the news. No, Lauren's family found out through a simple note taped to her door. A note left by the landlord. A cold, impersonal message that shattered their world. For nearly 2 days, Lauren's family was kept in the dark. Not a single officer reached out to them. No one informed them that their beloved daughter was gone. Instead, they were left to piece together the broken fragments of a tragedy that they had no part in creating. Lauren's family was left not only to mourn their daughter's death but also to fight for the respect and answers they deserved. They had to beg for information, for a thorough investigation, and for answers to the countless questions swirling in their minds. Why was her family left in the dark for nearly 2 days? And what did the police see that convinced them this case was nothing more than an accident? What are they missing? If this happened to your close relative, what will you have done? Let me know your theories in the comments section. Days turned into weeks, and as Lauren's family grieved, they were left with one unbearable question. What happened to their daughter that night? The answers came in the form of an official report, a document that would forever change the way they viewed her death. When the medical examiner's toxicology report was finally released, the truth was chilling. Lauren's cause of death was ruled as acute intoxication. The substances found in her system, fentanyl, promethazine, hydroxyzine, and alcohol, were more than just a dangerous cocktail. They were deadly. To Lauren's family, the report was not just a final diagnosis, it was a betrayal. Their daughter, who had lived a life focused on fitness, health, and wellness, was now described as a victim of a deadly cocktail of drugs. But there was one major problem. Lauren had never used drugs. She was a track star, a future physical therapist, a woman who cared about her body and health more than anything else. Lauren's family knew her. They knew she didn't do drugs. She didn't smoke, didn't drink excessively, didn't experiment with substances. Her lifestyle, the choices she made, told a completely different story. So how did fentanyl, a potent synthetic opioid, end up in her system? How did she come to be intoxicated with such deadly substances? It was a question that haunted them day and night. For them, the accidental overdose ruling didn't make sense. If Lauren didn't willingly take those substances, then who put them there? Was she drugged? Was there foul play involved? But the authorities had already closed the case, labeling her death as an accident. The investigation was over just like that. But for Lauren's family, this wasn't just an overdose. This was something more. The medical examiner may have closed the case, but they were not willing to let Lauren be forgotten. They began to speak out. They went public with their frustrations, sharing their anger, their heartbreak. This was no accident. They would not let their daughter's death be brushed aside. Lauren's family wasn't about to give up. They refused to accept the official narrative. They raised money for a second independent autopsy. They hired a civil rights attorney. They filed lawsuits, demanding justice for the wrongs they believed had been committed against their daughter. But no matter how hard they fought, the questions remained unanswered. The authorities refused to investigate further. No one questioned Matthew LaFontaine, the man who had been with Lauren the night she died. No one examined his background or his possible involvement in her death. And as the family continued to demand answers, the police continued to treat him as a witness, not a suspect. If Lauren didn't willingly take those substances, who put them there? And why wasn't anyone held responsible? What happened to the investigation, and why did it come to an abrupt halt? Lauren Smithfield's family refused to be silenced. The grief of losing their beloved daughter, sister, and friend could have consumed them, but instead, it ignited a fierce desire for justice. They began a relentless fight for accountability, something that would not only expose the flaws in the investigation but also shake the very system that allowed Lauren's case to be dismissed so easily. The family took their cause to the streets, to the media, and into the heart of Connecticut's political scene. They would not stop until Lauren's voice was heard. Lauren's family took their fight beyond the streets. They didn't just demand answers. They made their voices heard through the press and through the courts. Civil rights attorney Darnell Crossland was hired to take on the case, and he wasted no time filing a lawsuit against the city of Bridgeport. But the family's fight wasn't just about holding individuals accountable, it was about forcing a system to change. As the family's outrage spread, the state of Connecticut felt the pressure. They could no longer ignore the widespread demand for change. In response, the state passed new legislation requiring families to be notified within 24 hours of a loved one's death. No more silence, no more waiting in the dark. It was a small victory in the fight for justice, but it was only the beginning. But amidst this small victory came the crushing reality. Despite the protests, the lawsuits, and the media attention, Matthew LaFontaine, the man who had spent that fateful night with Lauren, remained free. He was never charged. He was never interrogated as a suspect. No one forced him to explain the gaps in his story. The authorities, despite the glaring inconsistencies, still treated him as a witness, not a person of interest. The man who may have been the key to unlocking the truth was never forced to answer the questions that Lauren's family desperately needed answered. Lauren's family was left with more questions than answers. If Matthew wasn't a suspect, then who was? And why was the investigation allowed to stall? The police may have closed the case, but the Smithfields family would never give up their fight for the truth. Why was the only eyewitness treated as a bystander? And what would true justice look like for Lauren's family now? What will you do in Lauren family case? Drop your view in the comments section. Lauren Smithfield's name is no longer just a memory, it's a legacy. Her story changed the way Connecticut approaches death notifications and forced a conversation about police protocols, race, and the safety of women. Lauren's Law, a bill that now mandates families be notified within 24 hours of a loved one's death, stands as a testament to her family's tireless fight for justice. But despite these changes, the man who spent the last hours of her life remains free, and the questions surrounding her death remain unanswered. Was Lauren's death truly an accident, or was it a crime hidden in plain sight? And if it was, who is responsible for her tragic end? These questions continue to echo in the hearts of those who loved her, and in the minds of those who follow this case. But the fight isn't over. The truth has not yet been uncovered. Lauren's story didn't just inspire change in the law, it ignited a movement. A movement to ensure that no woman is ever forgotten, that no victim is ever dismissed. Lauren's legacy continues to push for a more transparent system, for justice to prevail, and for the victims' families to be heard. But most importantly, it reminds us all that we cannot stay silent in the face of injustice. If Lauren's story has inspired you, if it made you think differently about justice, women's safety, or accountability, share it with your friends and family. You never know who you might help or who's listening. By sharing these stories, we not only keep their voices alive, we can change lives. Maybe, just maybe, we can stop another tragedy from happening. If you believe in justice, if you believe that these stories need to be heard, hit that subscribe button right now. Join us on this journey as we continue to seek the truth in every story we uncover. Because the fight for justice never ends. And with your support, neither do we. Until next time, keep questioning. Keep seeking the truth. And remember, it's not just about solving one case. It's about protecting all the lives that still need our voice.